Hello there, I'm Tony Galvez and this is Road Trip Spain and Portugal, where we help you plan the perfect trip with practical information and insider tips. After releasing a basic travel guide to Lanzarote, which you shouldn't miss, we are heading back to the island to take a look at our personal top 15 list of Lanzarote's top attractions. We'll identify which attractions are free and which are paid for, and we'll also tell you which of our Lanzarote road trips take you to each attraction. In the description of the video you will find links to the places mentioned in the list, so that you can check opening times and prices for those attractions that are paid. From 15 to 1, this is our list, and do not miss our number 1, which includes an incredible, unforgettable free walk within the National Park of Timanfaya. The first place on our list is linked to a son of Lanzarote without whose existence it would be impossible to understand the island. César Manrique was a painter, sculptor and architect from Lanzarote with a unique vision of the relationship between man and nature. In his works, present in many parts of Lanzarote, he sought a respectful dialogue with nature. When he returned from a period living in New York, César Manrique built his first house inside a volcanic lava flow near the town of Taichi, in the center of the island. In the construction of the house, the artist wanted to create a harmonious dialogue between man and nature, and the result is astonishing. The upper part of the house is inspired by the traditional Lanzarote style. The lower level takes advantage of 5 natural bubbles inside the lava interconnected with tunnels to build a unique house where the play of contrasts between the green of the vegetation, the white of the walls, the black of the lava and the blue of the water in the pool create a very beautiful spectacle. Manrique lived in this house for 20 years before moving to Aria. If you are interested in the artist's work, in Aria you can visit the Casa Museo César Manrique, another beautiful creation of the artist, the house where he lived until his death. 1 kilometer away from the town of San Bartolomé is the Casa Museo del Campesino, a group of buildings designed by César Manrique to pay homage to and preserve the work and traditions of the peasants of Lanzarote. For the location of the complex, Manrique chose a spot on the island where the peasants managed to make the cultivation of the land prosper despite the almost insurmountable difficulties posed by the natural environment. The houses you will see follow the style of the island's traditional dwellings, with the characteristic white walls and green for the wood. There are several workshops where at certain times of the day you can see craftsmen making traditional Lanzarote products. Next to the complex stands the sculpture Fecundidad, fertility, an abstract work made by recycling all water tanks. Famara Beach is one of the most spectacular beaches of Lanzarote. It is more than 5 kilometers long and starts in the small village of Caleta de Famara and stretches all the way to the imposing Riscos de Famara. It is a beach where the wind is always blowing, where it doesn't blow in Lanzarote. And for this reason it's very popular with surfers and kite surfers. Although it is a delight to walk along the seashore contemplating the landscape, the strong waves and currents make the beach unsuitable for safe bathing. Caleta de Famara is an excellent place to eat some local delicacies by the sea and watch the sun set over the cliffs. The town of Teguise was the capital of Lanzarote until 1852, when the capital was transferred to Arrecife. Declared a historic artistic architectural site, it is a beautiful and very well preserved small town with palaces and stately homes. We highly recommend a stroll through the center of Teguise. Teguise is also famous because every Sunday morning a local market is held here, probably the most famous in Lanzarote. We had read different opinions about the market, worth it, not worth it, and decided to go and form our own opinion. What we found: a few stalls, with local crafts, mainly custom jewelry, and a large majority of stalls selling the same things you will find in any other flea market in Spain, including stalls selling counterfeit branded clothes. It seems to be a market entirely aimed at foreign tourists, mainly British, who arrive in buses to Teguise on Sunday mornings. And while we couldn't find any food stalls serving local delicacies, we had no problem finding several where we could eat a very traditional English breakfast. Our verdict: we wouldn't change our Lanzarote schedule to visit the Sunday market in Teguise. In addition to the great and famous artistic and touristic creations that Cesar Manrique left on the island, and we're still going to see a few of them in this list, the artist also had fun leaving what he called juguetes del viento, wind toys, scattered around Lanzarote. They are mobile sculptures that take advantage of one of Lanzarote's most marked features, the wind, to amuse with complicated rotating movements. The wind toys exert a hypnotic fascination on those who contemplate them. El Golfo is a small fishing village with less than 200 inhabitants, with white houses that contrast with the black volcanic beaches. It is not far from the border of the Timanfaya National Park. Its whitewashed houses and its isolation contribute to its charm. El Golfo is a very good place for those who want to eat well. Its restaurants by the sea serve all kinds of products extracted from the waters of Lanzarote for very reasonable prices. In the video on where and what to eat in Lanzarote, we share our experience eating in El Golfo. Next to El Golfo, on the edge of the natural park of the volcanoes, is one of the great attractions of Lanzarote, the Charco de los Clicos, also known as Charco Verde, Laguna Verde or Lago Verde. To get close to the Charco de los Clicos from above, you will have to walk along a short path that starts in a car park at the entrance of El Golfo. Inside an ancient volcanic crater, eroded over time by the wind and seawater, there is a small green lagoon less than 100 meters long. The color of the water is due to sulfur and the presence of chlorophyll-producing algae. The contrast between the brown of the rock, the green of the lagoon, the black of the volcanic sun, and the blue of the sea is marvelous. Today it is no longer allowed to go down to the beach, a pity because contemplating the volcanic crater wall from the beach was wonderful, as you can see in the photos we took 10 years ago when it was possible to go down to the beach. But tourism was deteriorating the natural environment, and the profound imbecility of those who think that throwing a coin contributes to something other than the degradation of the environment was changing the color of the lagoon. Access was banned, and today you can only see the bay from a viewpoint. Los Hervideros, hervir in Spain means to boil, is a surprising natural landscape formed after the lava from the eruptions in Timanfaya met the sea water. This once flowing lava flow is now solidified and hard rock, and this encounter between lava and sea created a marvelous landscape. In Los Hervideros today, the water boils when the sea beats hard against the rocks. We imagine that in the past it must have boiled more literally when the incandescent lava came into contact with the seawater during the eruptions of the 18th century. A visit to the Hervideros is especially spectacular on a rough sea day. There is a car park and a small network of trails that allow you to walk around the site safely. But if you are with children, be careful not to let them run off and give you a scare. To To understand three places that we are about to see in the list of attractions in Lanzarote, it is necessary to explain quickly what a lava tube, also known as a volcanic tube, is. And for that we are going to take advantage of an exceptional infographic that was recently made by the public television of the Canary Islands during the eruption of the volcano of La Palma in another island. When an eruption occurs, the walls around a lava river can solidify. The lava continues to flow inside the tube like a hose. When the volcanic activity ends, the lava flows out of the tube, which empties. Approximately 25,000 years ago, the eruption of the volcano of La Corona generated a gigantic sea of lava in the north of the island of Lanzarote. Within this sea of lava, a volcanic tube was formed, which later emptied, in which today you can see the Jameo de la Gente, the Jameos del Agua, and the Cueva de los Verdes, which we are going to talk about right now. These three attractions are part of the same volcanic tube. The Cueva de los Verdes, the Verdes Cave, was so named because it was used to keep livestock and protect against pirate attacks by a family surnamed Verdes. When tourism began to develop on the island in the 1960s, fueled by the ideas of César Manrique, the Lanzarote authorities commissioned the Canarian artist Jesus Soto to prepare the interior of the volcanic tube around the Cueva de los Verdes so that it could be visited safely. Soto worked for 4 years on an accessibility and lighting project to create a wonderful visitor experience. The visit consists of a guided tour of approximately 1 hour, during which the guide offers explanations and helps to understand what is being visited. At the end of the visit, there is a little surprise which, as everyone who visits the cave is asked to do, we will not reveal, or to use the terminology more appropriate to the century in which we live, there will be no spoilers. At the southern tip of the island of Lanzarote, within the arid natural monument of Los Ajaches, in a landscape where volcanoes coexist with cliffs, is the most beautiful beach on the island, Playa del Papagayo, the Parrot Beach. It is a small rounded cove with white sand and emerald green waters. It is very popular because, being protected by 2 large rock walls, its waters are calm. The bars at the top are perfect for a quick stop with an unbeatable view. César Manrique's last major work in Lanzarote was the Jardín de Cactus, the Cactus Garden. The artist transformed an old abandoned quarry into a wonderful botanic garden dedicated to cacti. The garden has 4,500 cacti of 450 different species. It is a very beautiful and interesting place. Once again, Manrique contrasted the green of the plants with the black of the volcanic earth and the blue of the sky to create a beautiful aesthetic combination. At the top of the garden, you will see one of the last windmills used in Lanzarote to grind millo, the local corn, and prepare gofio, a traditional flour made from roasted corn or wheat. If you think a botanical garden with cactus might be boring, the Cactus Garden will change your mind. At the top of the cliffs, known as the Riscos de Famara, 400 meters above sea level, César Manrique, in collaboration with Jesus Soto and the architect Eduardo Cáceres, created a viewpoint perfectly integrated into nature, so much so that it is not easy to distinguish it when seen from the outside. The viewpoint was excavated and camouflaged in the rock in the vicinity of an old military battery and allows spectacular views of the island of La Graciosa and the Riscos de Famara. Inside the viewpoint, there is a cafe with large beautiful windows. Outside, weather permitting, there are several viewpoints with breathtaking views. You must remember the volcanic tube in which the Cueva de los Verdes is located. So, when the roof of a volcanic tube crumbles and collapses and produces an opening, and it creates what in Lanzarote is called a jameo. The jameo de la gente, which you can see now on screen and which we will show you in more detail in Route 4 of our routes around Lanzarote, is a good example of a jameo. But number 4 on our list is Jameos del Agua, the first tourist center created by César Manrique, always looking for that harmony between nature and artistic creation. The artistic intervention took place in the same volcanic tube as the Cueva de los Verdes, this time very close to the sea. An auditorium and several public spaces were created around a small natural lagoon, as well as a palm garden. It is a space of great beauty where once again Manrique's trademark, the black of the lava, the white of the walls, the green of the vegetation and the blue of the sky and water combine to create a very beautiful chromatic effect. Third on the list is a volcano. We choose the Volcán del Cuervo, the Raven volcano, because it is a beautiful volcano, easy to access, where you will be able to walk around the outer perimeter but also enter its crater. The visit is free because it is outside the national park in a nature reserve. It is a very special place because when in 1730 the volcanic eruptions on the island began, which would last 6 years and change the appearance of Lanzarote forever, they did so here. The walk is beautiful and our only recommendation is that you wear closed shoes. The path is made up of what is known in Lanzarote as rofe, a term that describes large volcanic sand. With open footwear, such as sandals, you will get the rofe inside your shoes and it will get very uncomfortable. There is a large car park and the path is very well signposted. If you want to go straight into the crater, turn right when you reach the volcano. If you turn left, you will have to take a long walk around it. Walking between volcanoes and lava fields is a supernatural experience. In second place on the list, a region with a unique landscape in the world, absolutely unforgettable, witness to the efforts of generations of Lanzarote people to overcome the difficulties imposed by the natural environment, La Jeria. Due to its special characteristics, the region received protection from the Canarian authorities, which declared it a protected landscape. The region of La Jeria was devastated by the volcanic eruptions of the 18th century, where others would have thrown in the towel and abandoned a seemingly barren land. The locals decided to ally themselves with nature in order to prosper. They learned to grow crops on La Pili, the volcanic ash, and they learned to protect the plants by digging hollows in the ground and erecting walls to protect the crops from the wind. And they learned how to make the most of every last drop of moisture on an island where rainfall is rare and where there are no rivers. The result, a landscape dominated by vineyards that provide grapes for the region wineries, which produce a unique wine of as much quality as the effort required to make it. The best way to understand the feat of wine production in La Jeria is to join one of the guided tours at one of the wineries. There are several. We did the tour with a delicious wine tasting at Bodegas La Jeria. The visit to the region of La Jeria is free, the visit to the wineries is paid. Timanfaya National Park, or as it is also known, the Fire Mountains, Montañas del Fuego, is our absolute #1 in Lanzarote, an extraordinary place with landscapes from another planet capable of provoking overflowing emotions. But before we get too excited, let's go to the map to get a better understanding of where in the park you can go and how to do it. The national park area is shown in red in the image. The apparent arbitrary nature of some of the boundaries is due to the difficulties of negotiations with landowners who had to be expropriated before the park was created. There is a road, the LZ67, between the villages of Mancha Blanca and Yaiza, which crosses the national park. It is one of the most incredible roads in Spain, and you can drive freely along it. Outside the national park and coming from the north, you will find the Timanfaya Visitor and Interpretation Center. The only place in the park where you can get there by car is the Islote de Hilario. Access to the islet is controlled and there is a fee. On the border of the park there is the Echadero de los Camellos, which is free access with a pay activity. Finally, for those who want to walk inside the park in an authorized way, there is the possibility of completing the Tremesana route. Let's talk about each of these places. We recommend that the first thing you visit is the Interpretation Center. It is built on a lava field and even has several walkways that allow you to walk along it, but they were closed for maintenance when we visited the center last. In the center there is also a multimedia recreation of the eruptions that between 1730 and 1736 gave rise to the Fire Mountains. The problem you will encounter is that, even if you visit the Interpretation Center at the first time slot, you will end up arriving at the Islote de Hilario when there is already a long queue to get in. And when we talk about a long queue, we mean a long queue. As you can see now in the picture, all those cars lined up are waiting their turn to enter the national park. If you don't want to waste valuable time waiting to enter the park, we would recommend that you visit the Interpretation Center the day before and enter the park early in the morning when it is still quiet. Let's go to Islote de Hilario. When you pass through the access control, you will drive to the National Park car park. That short stretch of road is amazing. Take the time to enjoy the scenery. Once you have parked your car and followed the signs, you will get on a bus. Yes, it would be wonderful to be able to visit the national park on our own, but it would probably be wonderful for us, not for the park. So the only way to tour this part of the park is to get on a bus that does a 45-minute closed circuit. It is an amazing ride with incredible views. If you can, sit on the right side of the bus. There are beautiful views on both sides, but the most spectacular ones open up before your eyes near the end of the tour on the right side. By the way, the maneuvers the bus makes are not for the faint of heart. When the bus ride is over, you will be directed to a part of the complex where you will be able to watch some experiments that are not always very well understood. No, there is no volcanic activity on Lanzarote. The volcanoes are long extinct. What happened is that during the last eruption, the Earth did not manage to expel all the magma that emerged near the surface. And as its temperature is very high, and in Lanzarote we know that it hardly ever rains, it will take centuries before that magma cools down. The Islote de Hilario is the point in Lanzarote where there is magma closest to the surface. You will probably get some hot pebbles in your hands that you won't be able to hold for long because they are too hot. That's how hot the subsoil you walk on is. You see how you only have to push straw a few meters into the ground and it will start to burn. And you will also see what happens when an employee of the national park pours water into the ground. Finally, you will see a unique gastronomic experience, roasting meat in the heat of the volcano. Get as close to the grill as much as you can, which won't be much, to feel the searing heat of the Earth's interior. The restaurant and facilities at Islote de Hilario were designed by César Manrique. And yes, it is unavoidable. During your visit, you will be surrounded by hundreds of tourists all the time. The most incredible place on Lanzarote is probably the most touristy place as well. There is nothing you can do. Arrive early or late in the day if you want to avoid the worst hordes of tourists. And never forget that you are a tourist too. Leaving the islet of Hilario on the road towards Yaiza, right on the border of the national park, is another very touristy attraction, the Echadero de Camellos, a place where those tourists that want to can take a short ride on the back of a camel. We are not too keen about tourist attractions with animals here, so we didn't ride a camel, nor do we specifically recommend it. The only thing that saves the attraction is knowing that the camel is not a foreign animal to Lanzarote. It has been a traditional companion and helper of the island's inhabitants for centuries. Now, if you want to enjoy Timanfaya National Park in a different way, away from the masses, with the opportunity to get a closer look at the place you're visiting, the ace up our sleeve is the Tremesana route. The route is a 3-hour walk through a spectacular part of the national park. It is offered by the national park itself free of charge for a small group of maximum 8 people and the company of a guide. A van from the park will pick you up in the village of Yaiza and take you to the beginning of the route through the lava fields. When we did the route, we were lucky enough to have an excellent guide, Miguel, a biologist from the park who made the experience of visiting the Fire Mountains into something very special. Throughout the walk, you will not stop receiving information about the history, geology, botany, and life of the park. You will become a specialist of sorts in volcanic eruptions, and you will be able to distinguish between an AA-type lava flow, the most common in Lanzarote, the ones you will see everywhere, and a Pahoehoe lava flow, less frequent but incredibly beautiful. You will even be able to get inside a volcanic tube. It is a sensational trek and in our opinion the most delightful way to experience and absorb the endless beauty of volcanic Lanzarote. The difficult level of the hike is low. If you can walk for 3 hours on uneven ground, you'll have no problem. Don't forget to bring a hat, sunscreen, closed shoes and water. As mentioned above, the Tremesana route is free of charge. It is offered 3 days a week with departures in Spanish and departures in English, and as you can imagine, places run out quickly. The park usually introduces places in the system 30 days in advance at the beginning of the month. If you want to book the route, you have to do it as far in advance as possible. And if you don't make it, you can always go to the departure point in Yaiza, in the Plaza de los Remedios, and join the waiting list in case someone doesn't show up, leaving his place free. With the marvelous Fire Mountains and the Timanfaya National Park ends our top 15 of Lanzarote. There are many more interesting places on the island that didn't fit here, from the Mirador de Guinati to the leaning palm tree to the fascinating Grietas. They didn't fit in the top 15, but we visit them during our Lanzarote driving tours, so don't miss them. When each day of the road trip is ready, we will put the links in the description. Also, due to lack of time, we didn't have time to make a classic trip, the visit to the neighboring island of La Graciosa. It's always good to have strong reasons to return to a place. You will now see on the screen our travel guide to Lanzarote with all the essential information to prepare a perfect trip to the island, which is our great Spanish passion. Até mais, hasta la próxima, see you soon.